Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is finally here, and it's a weird, adorable little game. At first glance, it might look like it fits in perfectly with the other modern Yoshi games, but it's actually a very different experience. The Yoshi series has always been beloved by a lot of Nintendo fans, and the original Yoshi's Island is still considered one of the best games Nintendo's ever made. Or at least that's what I keep hearing. And with the last couple of games made by Goodfield, the Yoshi series has really developed an identity of its own. It's usually this mix of a very arts and crafts sort of aesthetic with forgiving and easygoing gameplay. And Yoshi's Woolly World, I said recently, is still a fantastic game, really. And while I know Crafted World didn't get as positive of a reception overall, I know a lot of people still do enjoy it. So where does Yoshi and the Mysterious Book fit into here? Well, visually, it definitely looks the part with its very clear coloring book aesthetic. It's not, the same as the previous two games, Woolly World had yarn, and then Crafted World had more of a general arts and crafts aesthetic. Here it's a little different, but it definitely fits within the scope of what the series has been going for, and it executes its vision perfectly. When you first start a level, you get to see the design of the level taking shape and then being colored in gradually. It's almost like a time-lapse of the level being hand-drawn and painted. And then, when you make a discovery in the game, it sounds and looks like an annotation being drawn on the book. And, even the animations of the characters and everything, they have this sort of like stop-motion effect to them that makes it feel like it gives it that feeling that it's sort of a static image, it's inside the book, and that sort of stop motion effect is what you would see when someone is drawing a static image trying to represent movement. So everything comes together really well here. The art style is nailed perfectly for this coloring book aesthetic. It's really good. But the gameplay is where things get really interesting because with previous games, well, the art style was definitely very unique. The structure of the actual game was very much a typical platform, You start at a very specific point and there is a very clear end point to the level, and it's usually a fairly straightforward, clear goal to make the path from the beginning to the end. It's not a very complicated formula. What the Yoshi games did is have a lot of collectibles that are optional along the way. With this though, things are quite a bit different. You don't have these linear, straightforward experiences from the beginning of the level to the end of the level. Instead, all the levels are habitats, each level is the main habitat for one of the creatures in the game, and you have free reign to explore that habitat at your own pace and in whatever way you prefer, to find all the discoveries you can about the creature that lives there. The levels aren't designed in a linear fashion, so you don't get that very clear path to the goal, but a lot of the things that you have to discover are designed in such a way that they invite you to discover them in a fairly natural way, One of the big things you can do here is obviously Yoshi's tongue attack. So here it comes in really handy because you can find out how creatures taste or feel in your mouth, or eventually as you move on, you might find out that some of them are a little too fast to catch with your tongue. Or maybe you can only catch them in midair. Or maybe there's something that you can swallow and then you spit it back out like a bubble gum like this guy. And there's a lot of different discoveries you can make with that basic interaction. But that is just a very basic interaction, and as you progress, you'll find out that characters can interact with all kinds of things. Some characters may react to patches of grass or flowers, or some of them may react to puddles of liquid, and different liquids at that. So there's puddles of water, or mud, or honey, and all of these things can cause different reactions with different creatures. So it's always inviting you to explore, to try and to get them to interact with each other, to get all these elements together and see what happens. And then as you progress, you'll find that some creatures can even interact with each other, because even though each level is the main habitat for a creature, earlier creatures can then often be found in later levels and they can trigger whole new interactions. So there's a lot that you can discover here, and it's very experimental. There are far more of these interactions in the game than you may initially expect, so there is a very good chance that the first time you go through a level, you're not going to get all of them at once. You can press L at any time to get a hint from Mr. E about the next discovery in the level, but those are usually pretty vague. Thankfully, once you finish the main series of objectives in that level, you can just exit the level at any time. And when you re-enter the same level, it actually shows you the title of another discovery for that creature, if there is one, and that is a hint in and of itself. And if you want, you can then spend 100 tokens to get an even more specific hint, so you can get that discovery more easily. So some of these are very cryptic, or like you wouldn't even think to try it. And it's pretty challenging, but thankfully, because of all these hints you can get, you usually can get through all of it within the confines of the game. Like, it's pretty challenging, but when you find yourself stuck, you can get help. Though even then, personally, I got stuck on the level with these singing dudes here, where I couldn't figure out what they wanted me to do for the last discovery. Like, Mr. E's hints were not being helpful enough, like the one in the stage itself. The title didn't help. I spent the tokens to get a more specific hint. I still couldn't really figure out what I was supposed to do to make things work. So I had to end up looking it up on the internet. But also, a lot of these discoveries aren't required to complete the game. Usually there's a main set of discoveries that you can make that has like a big objective at the end. And if you can get through those, that should give you enough of the stars that you get to unlock the next level. Because personally, I went for 100% completion on the first world, and I'm trying to do it for every level. But after the first world, I tried to go for 100% completion, and that gave me enough stars to unlock all the way to world 5. So you definitely don't need to get every star in every level to get that natural progression. If you just want to focus on the main ones without all the stress, you can definitely do that as well. So it's pretty much like previous Yoshi games where, just finishing the game is not really the challenge. The challenge, which does exist, mostly comes from trying to get 100% completion. So you can take this at your own pace and choose your own goals here. Appreciating this game does require you to be able to let go of your expectations for a Yoshi game or a platformer. What's in here is in no way worse than previous Yoshi games. And in fact, I would say it's executed brilliantly. But it is very different. So the challenge here is not at all about surviving or anything like that. There's no life system, there's no life counter. The challenge is just solving the puzzles. So it doesn't make the game easy necessarily, it just means that it's less stressful and there are lower stakes. But there are still things here that are challenging for you to do if you want to work your brain a little bit. But you might be wondering why you're even doing all of this. Well, put simply, Bowser Jr. was messing with this mysterious book, and he got sucked into the book, and as he did, the book fell onto Yoshi's island. And then Mr. E, the book, asked the Yoshis to help him compile all the information possible about the creatures living inside the book. So you're here to help Mr. E compile all that information, while inadvertently probably looking for Bowser Jr. It's a very basic premise, but it does do the job of explaining why the game looks the way it does and just, the general motivation for the story. When you're outside the book, all of the characters look as sharp as you would want them to. The graphics are all very modern and everything. It's only when you go into the book that it shifts to that coloring book aesthetic. And in fact, you can actually choose from different Yoshis to go into the book. So if you don't like the green Yoshi by default, you can pick a bunch of the Yoshi colors that are available, and at any time you can switch between any of them. So pretty cool stuff. I haven't made it very far in the story yet. I've been trying to get all the collectibles, so things are taking a little bit longer. But so far the story seems pretty basic, which is completely fine. It's kind of what you expect for a Yoshi game or almost any game in the Mario series, really. The game does feature a lot of different locations and creatures though, so at least the variety is there for sure. I never have much to say about the music in games, but what I can say for Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is that the soundtrack seems very pleasant and fits perfectly with the vibe of the game overall. I think that's important to say because Crafted World was notoriously the music in that was very iffy, some of it was fine, some of it was very gritting. So that does not seem to be the problem here. The music here is very jolly, and it just, it fades in. It doesn't fade into the background, but it just fits the vibe very well. And I guess the last thing I want to touch on is performance, because I did see someone on Reddit say that this game looked blurry for some reason. They even said both in docked and handheld modes, and I haven't noticed any of that. The game seems to run perfectly fine. I haven't looked too closely, but I think it's running at 60 frames per second. And I have had no problems whatsoever with the sharpness of the graphics or anything. The game looks beautiful, the whole aesthetic is gorgeous in my opinion. And there's no performance issues here that I can point to, everything runs perfectly fine, which you would expect because it is, on a technical level, it's a pretty simple looking game, so yeah, everything here runs totally fine. So Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is, for me, so far, a great game. Like I said, I haven't made it very far, so I can't judge everything, but right now I have no reason to doubt the quality of the game will continue throughout, because I have made a good bit of progress. And it's been great so far. Like I said, you do need to have in mind that your expectations for a Yoshi game or platformer are not what this game is trying to do. This is a very unique and different concept for the gameplay itself. So you need to be able to have an open mind as to what it offers. But what it does offer is executed very well, and I think it's pretty fun. So if you are on the fence about this one, I do recommend checking it out, especially because Nintendo has been shifting their pricing structure a little bit. This game is only, quote-unquote, $60, so that's reasonable. It's good that they're lowering those prices a little bit. So yeah, I think it's worth a shot if you can get your hands on it. But anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in my thoughts on more Yoshi, do check out my review of Yoshi's Woolly World from a couple months ago. But yeah, I'll see you later. Bye bye.